Everyone, it's NFL Week 10. We are live, and we're breaking down everything you need to know to take down tournaments on DraftKings and FanDuel. This is Tournament Tactics. With me, as always, the Shark Lab himself, author of Winning the $1 Million Game, Secrets of the DraftKings Millie Maker. That's the Shark Lab, Burns 273.
Good afternoon, guys.
And then multi-time Millie Maker winner, multi-time awesome guy, BobbyWow. What would BobbyWow do? What's up, BobbyWow?
Let's go. I'm fresh off a Bears win last night. A lot of DFS Army takedowns. So I'm it's Victory Friday for me.
It is a victory. Did you say Victory Friday?
Shoot.
That's for Anthony right there. For Anthony, my man. And let me tell you something. You nailed it last night, BobbyWow. Like, are you serious? Look at the humbleness. First of all, the amount of tournament takedowns we took on the showdown last night was ridiculous. I personally got second and third nuts, just juggling those nuts, but didn't hit first. But I mean, you know, load up on Deontay, Foreman everywhere. The kickers. Emphasize the kickers, all of that stuff. So what a showdown it was. What a week 9 we had. And, you know, the comments are right. I mean, week 9 was spectacular. I took down first and third in a big tournament. The Noah Brown play last week. I got one for you. I got one or two that are just like Noah Brown for this week that aren't Noah Brown. But last week was spectacular. CJ Stroud, the Domination Station Optimizer that we have at DFS Army was force-feeding CJ Stroud into your lineups so much so that I think if you use the optimizer, you are limiting him. You're like, I don't need no 30%. I don't want triple stacks. Like, I'm not trying to. And meanwhile, the optimizer is telling me CJ Stroud with 2 and 3s. Schwartz, Bell, the proper combo. And I'm like, I'm going to set a limit here so it doesn't give me more than 2 of these because this is crazy. I fucked around and I found out. You don't want to do that. Got to listen. When the projections are telling you to do something, do it. So it was a spectacular NFL Week 9. We're moving on to Week 10. And guys, it's not an easy week. It's easy in some ways, but actually I'm having an issue with the running back position. So hopefully we could work all of this out. If you guys can just tell me who the running backs are for this week that are the correct ones, I really feel like I can win the Millie this week. BobbyWow and Burns, I'm counting on you both.
And I'm counting on you. This is going to be good. I'm looking forward to this one.
Count on me. I was counting on you.
I'm counting on everyone.
Yeah. And Queet is right. It's like, you know what? The optimizer, the AI that powers it, smarter than any of us. We might as well just allow it to do its thing. It knows what's up. All right, so let's get into NFL Week 10, and we'll just start with talking through some of these games and some of these QB wide receiver stacks. And I'm going to bring up the Domination Station Optimizer here so we can take a look at some of these game boxes and run through it. So, BobbyWow. There are 2 games that are showing in green on the optimizer this week or on our game tiles, right? You've got the Bengals taking on the Texans, and you've got the Lions at the Chargers. Both of these games are popping for pretty decent totals. Bengals have some injuries, which allow stacks to kind of come together a little bit cheaper on that side. So let's just talk through these 2 games and how you see them playing out and how much of these 2 games you're building your week around. And then I'll go to you, Burns.
Yeah, I think, these 2 games are where I'm building most of my lineups around, especially at the quarterback and wide receiver position. So these are where most of my stacks will come from. Love the Bengals and Texans game, particularly on the Texans side, actually, with T. Higgins potentially not playing. And I really, really am liking the Lions side of things more and more as the week progresses. So yeah, the majority of my stacks will be built around these two games, along with, Washington and Seattle starting to pop for me a little bit too.
Which side of the Washington-Seattle side are you looking at? I'm not a big play Geno guy, or those pass catchers on Seattle. Can we go with Washington here? Can we just go right back to Howell?
Yes, we absolutely can go to Howell. Love Howell this week.
Wow. Okay.
Love T-Mac, Jahan Dotson. I think that's going to be a sneaky stack type of game. Absolutely.
I love that you're going there with. I needed permission to play Howell on the road as an underdog, and that's all I wanted. I just wanted that BobbyWow permission on that one. Let's go to these other games though. So the Bengals they have a much higher game total compared to Stroud and company. Just when comparing those two, right? Of course, it's a great game, but the Bengals are a 26.75 point team total. I'm sorry, where Houston's only coming in at 20, and the Bengals defense has been pretty good, especially as the season has rolled on. Are we more focused on that Bengals side, a little JB action? Also, combined with the fact that Stroud coming off the big game is probably going to be, certainly the salary is up higher than we normally would see it. And, there's a lot of recency bias pushing people that way.
Barnesy, what are your thoughts there? I'm curious. I was waiting for your take on this all day.
On Cincinnati and the Houston game. To be honest with you, I think we're going to see Burrow as the highest projected quarterback on the entire slate. It's just a matchup that showcases that he can do very well in this matchup at home. Stroud coming in much lower owned. I think he's actually 10% lower owned, or maybe even 12% lower owned at the current point in time.
Yeah, this moment, Stroud, he's not projecting.
No,
1/4 the ownership of Joey B right now.
It's incredible how he put up a 44 last week, and he's not even close to highest owned on the slate this week. But this week, I think we can go right back to Joey B in this one. I think he is in a very good spot. I also like Stroud this week as well. He's one of my only guys that are underdogs that could actually produce a high fantasy total this week. So that's where I'm going in this game. I'm probably going to be maybe 1-2 stack guys with each. I don't know if we get a game stack like last week that just blows up. It was such a dynamic game, right? It was a back and forth game the entire game. Cincinnati's defense is not Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is very porous on the secondary. Cincinnati can actually work the defensive scheme better than Tampa Bay, but Houston can still shut down the run too. So I don't know if I can get behind a lot of Mixon this week, but he's going to be in my pool too.
Running back's going to be brutal. I am telling you in advance. I can't wait to get to that section because I need clarity. I need somewhere I can lean heavily at running back, but we're not there yet. We're still talking quarterback and we're talking some stacks. So let's shift gears to the Lions at the Chargers game. Lions are favored in this one on the road. And more, I'm first personally, but also just in general, I think Goff is probably the preferred quarterback in that game. He's a road favorite, which is what you want. He's a road favorite. Let's take a look at the ownerships here. So Goff looks like nothing special, 6.5% with where's Herbert? Oh, unowned at 2.75%. So that's really interesting. I mean, we're not really seeing a lot of ownership on these two. Is that surprising? It surprises me. I would have thought Herbert would be owned.
He's so high priced, 7,700. That's a lot for him. He has yet to make. We need 5x out of him. That's 40. That's near 38, 40 points on this slate. He hasn't even sniffed that this year. We're talking about a guy that's probably way overpriced on DraftKings. I haven't looked at FanDuel salary, so I can't opine on that. But just on DraftKings alone at $7,700, I mean, this guy's way overpriced. He's been overpriced all year. It's just,
That
yeah,
overpricing goes back multiple years.
yeah, I know he's done okay this year, better than last year, but we're still talking about a guy who has a main target of Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. He's lost all of his other guys. He's lost his secondary and his tertiary receiver. Quentin Johnson he hasn't really been part of this offense all year, really. Can he get part? He's going to be a part of this offense this week. But, we also got Everett, and we got Parham, and we got, Guyton. So those are your weapons this week for them. If you want to go, I don't know, man. If you want to go Herbert, I would stick only to Eckler and Keenan Allen, and it's very expensive.
I can't see using Herbert at all.
No.
He's not going to be in my mix for exactly the reasons that you said. He's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's too much money. The other side of that game, though, I think Goff is great, but Goff is certainly carrying a gonna get vultured by my running backs level of risk. Like there's a little risk there. That to me, though, is how Goff fails. This is an ultimate matchup for quarterbacks. San Francisco, LA. I can't get used to it. They're like the San Francisco. They're always or San Diego Chargers, but LA Chargers are bleeding points to quarterbacks on the season, effectively the most points per game or second or third most points per game to the position group. So, yeah, Goff is really an exciting play here as well. Let's look at the third game, though. There's another one that's kind of like, so as we get away from these two, let's call them main games. And for me, it's Burrow and Goff in those two games as the ones I want to go to. I am sticking with the Burnsian philosophy of favorite better than underdog as a quarterback. I'm on it. I read a book called Winning the $1 Million Game, Secrets of the DraftKings Million Maker, and it was all about that. I believe it. So link in description below for that book if you want. But let's branch out from these two games and talk about other spots that we might find some exciting QB stackability on this slate. So BobbyWow, I'll start with you. Okay, we're moving away from those two prime games. What is another quarterback you're going to this week? Where are some? Give me two stacks that you're looking at.
Look, I hate to go back on this favorite quarterback thing, but I got to bring up Sam Howell. Sam Howell he's one of probably my top 4, at least top 5 QB stacks this week. Love him and McLaurin, love him and Dotson. The Seahawks have been bleeding points to opposing quarterbacks and opposing wide receivers. This is the third highest game total on the slate. And Sam Howell has been slinging the football. 51 throws, 42, 52, 45, and then sandwiched in between there was a 23 passing game where he had 3 touchdowns against the Falcons. Didn't need him. But this guy's throwing the football all over the place. Love that he's below 6K. Love the game environment, and I love that his ownership will stay, I think, well below 5%. So Sam Howell, for me, is a primary target on this slate.
Yeah, Howell is at the bottom end of ownership. So, listen, I love it. Howell has had a couple of, it's a million maker play. I don't think that's something you're probably wanting to do in your cash lineup this week, but
yeah, I mean, clearly the 4 guys we talked about are the guys. Those are the primary guys. But he's one of my secondary stacks. The other guy, like going on the cheaper side, is Taylor Heineke. I think Heineke tournament winning upside with him as well. He threw the ball 40 times last week. Looks like he will get Drake London back. Looks like Kyle Pitts will be healthy. That Arizona defense is not great against the pass. I think people are going to be excited about Kyler Murray. Maybe Kyler can put up a couple more points, keep the game moving a little bit. I think Taylor Heineke's sneaky as the lowest viable option on this slate. So I'll have a hefty amount of stacks with him too.
I was not expecting a Taylor Heineke recommendation from BobbyWow. That is quite a genuinely surprising. I'm cool with it. I like Heineke. But that is genuinely surprising. Not somebody that I was on this week, Bobby Wow. How about you, Burns? Give me a couple of quarterbacks outside of the big 2 games, the big 4, that you're going to for stacks this week.
First off, I want to go back to the game that Bobby was talking about with Sam Howell. That game projects very well as a shootout game. Both are very porous in the secondary, and that's what we want to target for a shootout game. So I do agree with Bobby there. I like that game a lot. I like Smith in this game, and I also like Howell. I mean, go right to it. Bobby produced some really good data there with the passing, that the number of passing attempts that Howell has produced over the course of multiple weeks. And, it's evident with him, and it's evident with CJ Stroud. These guys are throwing the ball. I mean, they're slinging it. And, Seattle is actually a fairly decent team against the run. So that's going to produce more throws. I also am in agreement with Bobby on the Atlanta side of the ball with Heineke. Yeah, I mean, I like him. I like Drake. I like Jonnu Smith in this one. You got Pitts in there. And then you even got the guy that busted last week, Bijan Robinson. So we got some plays in that game that are very favorable. But moving off of those 2 games, another guy that I really am interested in this week, and I think he's not going to get overlooked by any stretch of the imagination, is Brock Purdy. And with San Francisco, they're going down into Jacksonville this week. They're going to have Deebo Samuel back. One thing I really like about this game is the fact that San Francisco is going up against Jacksonville, and Jacksonville primarily operates out of the zone in their defensive scheme 67% of the time. Now, 2 guys that are really ideally matched very well against the zone coverage and receiving scheme is George Kittle as well as Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel coming back, I think he's going to get significant amount of targets. He's going to be like, feed me, feed me, feed me. I've been out for a while. Just feed me. I think Ayuk gets pushed to the wayside in this game. He's not a good receiver against zone. I understand he's probably going to be one of the highest owned San Francisco receivers, for rightfully so. But in this game, I think it's Kittle and it's Deebo Samuel and with Brock Purdy. But yeah, that's probably another guy we haven't mentioned yet, but is in a very good spot.
Yeah, I love that you took it all the way to narrowing down some of those pass catchers with Brock Purdy. I'll add in on that breakdown that people don't really know this, but Jacksonville is borderline elite against running backs, possibly the best in the league against the running back position. I'm not going to quite go there, but in terms of yards allowed below expectations to the position group, they are right up there with any other team. I think they're allowing, let's put it up on screen here, but 30 or 40 yards below mean expectation. Yeah, 31 yards below mean expectation to opposing running backs. This via the power ranking sheet we have over on the Sharp app. And take a look at this. Is there a better team? They're actually they're only second only to the Eagles. And the other team that's up there that people might not be aware of is Detroit, which is really interesting for that game as well, in terms of, how the Chargers will be able to move the football in that particular game. So Jacksonville, 31 yards below mean expectation to running backs. That type of thing does push us to believe that maybe San Francisco will have to be throwing a little bit more, get you the Deebo game, get you the Kittle game, or whatever that is. One thing we do know with San Francisco is they tend to score 28 plus points like every week. That's just how that team works. They score a lot of points. They're really good like that. And that's been pretty much throughout the Purdy era. So I like that play, and I like Purdy a lot as well. You guys pretty much nailed it. There are two more quarterbacks that I want to mention here. A little honorable mention, so to speak. All in good matchups, and then I want to get your takes on these guys. But number one, the opposite side of your game, BobbyWow, the Heineke, cool, but what about Kyler Murray? Right, Kyler Murray, I get it. He's coming back. No one likes to play a rusty quarterback. I'm top of the list. Rusty quarterback don't sound good, but if he's Kyler Murray of old, and I'm talking about extra old, not the version before he got hurt that they try to turn into a pocket passer or the Cliff Kingsbury version, but rather like if he's a little bit better than that, or he's a little more like, I'm not going to stay in the pocket, I'm going to run around, doing the things that made Kyler Murray put up 35, 40 fantasy points, that could happen. Why would they bring him back if he's not fully healthy? That's first. There's no reason why you would play this guy unless you fully felt confident that he's healthy. I don't think he's going to be heavily played. Let me just give it a little scroll here. Oh,
he's decently owned, isn't he?
Not really. It looks like he might be in terms of like that he's fourth on this list, but really 6.6, 6.5. He's just in that, not the highest group. Let me put this up, but he's just like, he's right there. So he is the fourth. But then again, like Dak is third, and that's just ridiculous. So I think I think Kyler Murray is really interesting. I love stacking him with Hollywood Brown, of course. And then there's a whole myriad of secondary stack options from the tight end, who we already kind of like anyway. Trey
McBride.
The problem is there's a Trey McKitty or something, another tight end, and I cannot get it right in my head. McBride, but also even Rondale or there's a few of these guys that are stackable with him that are fine. I don't even think you need to double stack him. So I want to mention Kyler Murray. And then there's one other guy, and this one is this one's a little greasy. It's a little greasy, but the same matchup that produced, and I would say both sides of this game, the same matchup that produced the smash from CJ Stroud last week, the Titans are there, and Will Levis had a good game, his first game out. He's an easy stack with it's an easy one to figure out, stack him with Hopkins. And so Will Levis and almost, but I don't know if I can get there, almost Baker as well. So I just wanted you guys to weigh in on this. I don't see anybody else that's viable on this entire slate. I think we've mentioned all the viable. I purposefully did not mention Dak Prescott. I think he's one of the easier fades of the week, especially at third highest owned QB on the slate. That is just something I'm going to push aside. And if it burns me, it burns me. But these are the other two. What are your takes on both of these guys?
I have no issue with Kyler Murray. I think, Call of Duty was released 12 hours ago, the new Call of Duty game. So I think we got to be a little concerned there potentially if you're a Call of Duty narrative guy. But I mean, look, Kyler seems healthy. I really don't know why they're playing him. They've got a shot at the number one pick. Kyler gives them a much better chance to win. So he's a mobile quarterback. The Falcons have been pretty good against the pass. So it's not, it's not like an exciting matchup, which kind of brings me down a little bit, but he's certainly an option. And, Levis, I think Levis and Baker, you could make the argument for. I like Heineke the best of those three in that same price range, which is kind of why I'm leaning that way. So, yeah, but no, I think they're worth mentioning.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a little low on Levis only because he's on the road. If this was at home, it would be a different story. But I do like DeAndre Hopkins in this matchup. I think he has a decent matchup. I just don't know if Will Levis is going to get there. That's all. He still has to get in and around 20 points at DraftKings to be making value where we're actually like, oh, okay, my lineup is still relevant, right? So, he still has to be getting those types of points. Does he get there? Maybe. But his stacking partner definitely is DeAndre Hopkins if you want to go there.
Yeah. It's not asking that much to get to 20.
No, it's not, but he still has to get there. Yeah,
it's definitely not asking too much, though. Here we go. Super chat. Would I drop Warren for Noah B?
Which Warren?
I'm assuming Jaylen Warren.
I would not drop Jaylen Warren at all. I think he's a useful piece that you could pretty much start every week. I get Brown. Maybe if Collins was out this week, then I'd have more interest. I'm going to say no to that. No drop. Hold Warren, and especially in my season long, I want the backup running back that turns into a super stud starter if the other guy gets hurt, and that's what Jalen Warren is. So no, I would hold on to Warren there unless you absolutely needed Noah to start in your lineup this week. Super chat action. That's fun. So, all right. We've covered the QB stacks for the most part. And again, it's a 10-game slate. So we have our favorites and a couple of silly for the millie stacks and a fade of the highest. Are you guys on board with the fade of Dak? Let me just, I don't want to speak for anybody. So, and you guys in the chat as well. What do you think of the fact that Dak Prescott is the third highest owned in a game where he's favored by 17 points? I get there's a high team total there, but man, I don't usually see teams throwing a lot when they're up 21-0, in the second quarter of a game. So I don't know. But are you guys, what do you guys feel about the Dak fade before I sort of assign it to everybody?
Let me take one look at his performance against them.
I was gonna say Dak did throw, up 21-0 and 28-0 and 35-0 against the Giants earlier this season. I think that's probably what's leading to that massive ownership. But I'm with you. I think underweight is the play on him. There's too many options. There's too many paths to failure for him. And Tony Pollard is the play from this game.
Yeah, it's kind of what I think too. I need verification because when I see this and it's so the antithesis of what I was thinking going in. Like I've prepared my pick sheet for the most part for the week. Like it's mostly done, and Dak's name never even crossed my mind. And then I was like, oh my God, he's the highest owned, or he's one of the highest owned. It never crossed my mind. And when I see that, I'm like, that's confusing. All right, what's going on here? And so I need second opinions.
So this will probably help you, Kev. Week 1, he got 6.3 DraftKings points. They blew him out 40-0. So
yep, there you go.
Are we going to see another 40-0 score
Probably,
this week?
Maybe.
Potentially. Very, very good. But I doubt it. I think we're more like they beat him like 27-3, 21. I don't think they eclipse 30, but they can definitely do it. But Dak is a full fade for me. I'm axing him out of my player pool because of that. They're pushing 16.5, 17.5 on a spread right now. That's ridiculous. Like you see a spread like that, that should give you pause to actually roster that quarterback.
I've been doing that for my whole DFS career. If it's not a competitive game, I tend to not want to play and stack quarterbacks from those games. And every once in a while it comes back to burn you. But the fact that I remember the few times it's come back to burn me tells me that it's the right move. Like I'm still thinking about that time I faded, Lamar Jackson at Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he scored 41. And it's like, man, that happened 3 years ago. As a massive favorite. That was years ago. And I still remember it because usually when you fade that, it works out. So the one time it didn't, I remember it. So good. I'm glad everybody's on board. And by the way, I just want to mention, I'm loving the chat that's scrolling. So it's a little distracting as I'm rolling the show together, but I'm really loving the chat that's going. So, this is one of the shows where if you could try to be here when we're live, I think it's a big positive. And the best way to be here when we're live for these streams is to have the notification bell rung so that when we put out the video, it's going to come out in half an hour. You get a little notification somewhere, an email. I don't know what YouTube does, but it notifies you that it's going live in half an hour, and it lets you know, and you can be there with us live. Or of course, if you're in the DFS Army Discord, you will see those notifications as well. So make sure you're signed up at DFS Army, get in that Discord, hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As we move on to the wide receiver group, so we're
skipping running back.
See, this is something right here, right? This is why this stuff can cross over from season long to DFS. It's all the same. Should I be starting Kyler in season long over Dak? Let's throw that not only to the chat. Should he be starting Kyler over Dak in season long? What do you guys think?
That's tougher for me. I think if you're looking to take down a tournament, I'm taking Kyler over Dak this week, but Dak's probably the safer bet if you're looking for guaranteed points in your league. It just kind of depends on the matchup.
I'm making a call here, guys.
Here we go.
Play Murray.
Okay.
I'm making the call. Play Murray. Play Kyler. I'm allowing it. You have permission. Play
I don't
Kyler.
hate it.
All right. Let's move on to the wide receiver position. And it's another interesting. It's always an interesting week. I always say it. It's
running back or wide receiver. We going stats.
All right. You know what?
first?
Let's go running back second. That's fine. All right.
Okay.
We'll talk running back second. Again, whenever I sort by projected ownership, it's funny. So I'm going to unsort it by that, but just take a look at how ownership projections are looking. And it's the highest owned guy is a guy who has yet to have a DFS worthy performance all season. That's crazy. Rashad White against a really good run defense. Travis Etienne against the elite San Francisco rush defense. What is going on? This is a tough position group this week. And this is where I need the most clarity because all of this is just making me crazy. I don't get it. And I don't know what to do here. I don't have a lock button. So I'm hoping that you guys are going to clarify some of this for me so I can make my money this week. This is where the money is going to be made. I guarantee it. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, before we even talk about the group, that this is a 2 running back week. I'm going to reduce the amount of these that I need to make choices on to eliminate the mistakes because the mistakes are going to be massive. I think anyway. So BobbyWow, with all that being said, and with that wonderful introduction, I'm going to cross off 2 guys off the list right off the bat for me. Saquon Barkley against Dallas. Can you play him in this match? I don't. He might get 40 carries, but I don't know. You take me through it. BobbyWow at the stud zone here. Let's call it 7K and up. I'll start with Jahmyr Gibbs and roll all the way up to Christian McCaffrey. Studs.
The 2 people I'm playing in this range are Tony Pollard and Travis Etienne. I think Tony Pollard's my number 1 guy in this range. I don't know that you have to pay all the way up to CMC. Eckler's in a tough matchup. He's pricey. Kamara is, you mentioned it last week. He's starting to get carries eaten into by, not only Taysom Hill, but Jamal Williams as well. He's getting catches taken away from Miller. So that's a scary situation. He's priced up. And like you said, Saquon Barkley, Tommy DeVito is the worst NFL quarterback of any of our lifetimes. That dude stinks. He played for Illinois. Just trust me, he's terrible. Saquon Barkley, it would take a miracle for him to score well.
I'd take him over Zach Wilson all day.
No way. Stop. That is horrible. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. And Derrick Henry, tough matchup as well. So, to me, maybe make the argument to pay up for CMC. Maybe. I'm still liking the idea of being underweight there. I think Tony Pollard to me is the guy in this range. And then Travis Etienne, based on volume alone and how much pass catching work he gets, I think he's in play as well.
The ETN one I'm having a hard time with. It's the 49ers. They're so good against the run.
They are good against the run, but I mean this guy is getting volume. He looked great against.
He's been spectacular. And 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row.
Good games against good defenses too. This guy can do it.
All right. That's not somebody I was on, but again, you're opening up my eyes here with ETN. Burns, of that group, are you kind of on board? I'm probably going to be a little more on Christian McCaffrey maybe than you are, BobbyWow here, but I agree with you. I don't think it's like you got to force feed him in. And again, we talked about it before, but Jaguars are actually excellent versus running backs. I don't know that this is the Christian McCaffrey gets you 35 spot, and that's really what you need from him to make it worth having paid all the way up for him. So, at 25, you might get 20 out of like Najee Harris. You know what I mean? Like that could happen. And then you got it for half the price.
Pollard's my flag plant in this entire group. I mean, the guy is got probably the best matchup of any one of the top tier guys, for even Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's got the potential to be 30, 35, 40 pointer this week. Because it's him and the defense in this game for me. Everything else is just not something that I want to go towards. I don't want Dak. I don't want CeeDee Lamb. There's potential for Ferguson, but I'm just not really on board with the passing game. It's just Pollard in the defense in this game for me. ETN, yeah, I get it. It's tricky. It's a tricky matchup for them. A lot of the metrics that we have don't actually include the fact that they have Chase Young on the opposite side of Bosa. So that's going to present a problem as well. So this is a really tough matchup for him in the Jacksonville offense, but they could actually get there with him. I just don't know if he can get to 28 to 35 points in this one as a fantasy production, but I do like the call, Bobby.
I'm excited to feel confident in Tony Pollard. Everything on paper sets up so well for him. It's the defensive game. The fact that he hasn't scored and the team's probably just like wants to get him a couple tutties. You know what I mean? Like he's been having a rough year and the team's kind of like, let's feed him 2 touchdowns in this one.
He basically scored 2 touchdowns in 1/2 in the same matchup in week 1.
Yeah.
So it's there.
I like the spot as well. All right, let's shift down to RB2 because, that's probably our RB1. Gibbs and Montgomery pretty much almost eliminate each other by being priced this high. I don't think you can play either one of them.
And the Chargers have been good against the run too.
Yeah, as a bonus, right? So the greatest thing that could happen if the Chargers are good against the run is that's when you get the Goff game. That's when Goff wins you the tournament. So hopefully they continue to do that because I think we're all going to be really heavy on Goff this week. So let's hope that continues. See, Theo, sometimes what you got to do is just like the pain it's like of clicking that button. You're like, oh, Pollard, he sucks. I'm dead to me, right? But in DFS, you gotta fight through that pain. And just click the button and just got to move on. Like forget the last week with some guys. So let's talk about this next group here. We'll start all the way at the top with Kenny Walker, who I don't think is going to be a popular play. 11%, somewhat popular, but start from here and kind of go down to that 5K zone. There are a bunch of starting running backs in this price range, and we'll go all the way down to pretty much everybody, which I think if you get down to Najee Harris, that pretty much is all of the viable RBs that are remaining. So, BobbyWow, I'll go right back to you here. Give me 3 of these guys that are your favorites from the secondary zone, the lesser expensive zone of running backs this week, and give me some basis for that. Some guys that I can feel confident in.
Yeah, I don't know that you can feel super confident in any of these guys. I think this is the toughest running back week we've had so far. But the 3 guys in this range that I'm going to are Bijan Robinson. I've got some interest in him, even though Arthur Smith has no idea what to do with him. I think this game sets up well for him. I like that price. And I think Smith is facing some pressure here. So I think we finally see Bijan get some volume. Rachaad White, I know it's ugly. We talked about eating the chalk last week. It's not a great matchup. But again, the volume for Rachaad White is king. And when you got a guy at 5,800, volume matters, even in a matchup that's a little bit tougher. So I don't mind eating that chalk a little bit again. The guy that I'm most excited about, and I hate to say it, I'm nervous about it myself, Alexander Mattison. I'm intrigued by Mattison this week.
That came out of nowhere.
I'm bracing myself for like a video clip or something here.
No, that just came out of nowhere. I'm so surprised. What? I mean, Cam Akers is out.
Cam Akers is out.
Workload.
We may see Justin Jefferson back, which is a little bit intriguing. And I think the most intriguing thing for me is now people have to pay attention to Josh Dobbs as a runner. Kirk Cousins did not present any sort of running, ability. You don't have to worry about containing him. You don't have to worry about the option. I think this opens things up for Alexander Mattison, who is going to get, in theory, 70 to 80% of the running back work at 5,500. I'm really intrigued.
Got to fight against the pain to click the Bijan button too. Like, how many times do these guys have to burn us before? Now, Madison, it's funny. I had watching highlights of last week's game. There were a few really nice checkdowns to Madison, and I'm like, oh, and then but then I was like expecting more. It only happened like a couple of times. He didn't throw it to him very frequently. And one of the challenges with the running quarterback in general is that they're less likely to check down to their running backs compared to a non-running quarterback. And so, I don't know. It's not a good matchup though, Bobby. Wow, I don't know about that one. The Saints are really good against the running back position.
They haven't. I think they're a little bit overrated against the running back position, if I'm remembering correctly.
Let's go.
And again, I don't think it's like a flag plant play by any means.
No,
it's really
it's an
intriguing
one. The rushing, you're right. Yeah, a little below average against the run. It's so they're not allowing touchdowns because this is one of those areas where the fantasy points allowed metric is showing one thing, but the power rankings is showing something else. The power rankings show that that the Saints are actually allowing, and let me just make sure I'm seeing this correctly. Yeah, they're below average against the run, so they're allowing running backs to get 8 or 9 yards above mean expectation, above their norm, their average, so to speak. But when you look at the DVP number in terms of fantasy points allowed, it's the third fewest. So interesting. You're right. That is an overrate, Bobby. Wow, good call. I'm going to mention a couple of names here. Actually, no, Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Burns. Bobby Wow mentioned his 3.
Yep.
Give me your 3. It's okay if they overlap. Give me your 3 running backs in this zone, 7K and below, that you feel most comfortable with, that the Shark Lab metrics are pointing us towards this week.
I think Bijan needs to be a part of your player pool this week. Yes, he has failed in multiple weeks, but and he failed last week. He got 6.9 points, but miraculously he was in the winning Millie Maker lineup, which was beyond comprehension. But in the lineup still scored 250 plus points. So I think he needs to be a part of your player pool. If you want to limit him to a certain percentage, so be it. But please keep him in your player pool because he could potentially burst out this week and have an amazing performance fantasy-wise. And you'd be like, well, I X'd him on my player pool. Well, that's your problem. As we go down, there's a couple, Bobby mentioned Rashad White and Madison. I'm going to stick right in that same vicinity of salary-wise. And we talked about it last night, Kev. I think I'm going to be going right to the Washington running backs. I don't mind Brian Robinson in this game against Seattle. Seattle presents a very good matchup for the Washington running backs. They're 25th against the running backs in average fantasy points against. Their offensive, they have a pretty good offensive line for the running back position. The Seattle defense is fairly competent. They're 14th in the league against pass catching running backs. So what that's going to do is that's going to force out Antonio Gibson in this game. So Brian Robinson becomes more of a factor in this game for the Washington Redskins. And then if we keep going down a little bit further, in that 5K to high upper 4Ks, the Pittsburgh running backs are presenting some really good value right now against Green Bay. Green Bay is one of those defenses that just isn't getting it done week in and week out against the running back position. And I could actually see either one of these two guys, Harris or Warren, doing pretty good this week. Najee, he got the touchdown last game out, but it was actually Warren with lower volume, but did more from an efficiency metric, where he actually produced more yardage on the ground. But they did target Najee more than they targeted Warren in this game. So those two guys, and it's really tough to like pinpoint which guy because they're like $100 apart. And so I'd just maybe have both of them in your player pool this week.
The fact that we're talking about Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris not in an afternoon only or some 3-gamer, but rather a full slate where we have all the running backs available to us. It is a sad statement on the state of the running back position this week, where it just nothing's popping. I'll mention 2 names of guys I never play in DFS ever that I think are both kind of viable, and one of them is the opposite side of this game. It's gross, I know it, but Aaron Jones. I know I said the dirty word. Aaron Jones, a man who can't make it through a football game without getting hurt, a perennial Q tag that goes back for seasons, multiple seasons. And yet here we are, 20 carries last week, 6 targets. You're going to give me that kind of volume against the Steelers? The Steelers are not good against the run, or they have not been very good so far this year. Aaron Jones has to be in the mix again. Not a guy I don't think I've ever played him, or I'm not going to say I've never played him. He's been around forever. I've avoided Aaron Jones for years as a DFS play. The other guy is Joe Mixon, the perennially disappointing Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, who gets all the volume that you could possibly want in a running back. It's all the work for his team. It's a good team that scores a lot of points, and yet Mixon somehow goes week in and week out without doing it. It's a weird spot. But Mixon also, though, the problem here is 23% owned. Mixon what? Now, how do you balance the fact that Mixon's in probably a pretty good spot and, he's Joe Mixon, whatever, with the fact that he's going to be 23% owned? I don't know. That's a tough one for me, but those 2 guys are, in this zone. I'm not going to say they're my favorites. They're just like names we didn't mention that I think should be mentioned as, especially Mixon going to be super chalk. So that's something to really consider. Do we want to just fade that chalk and just play different guys? I don't. The other thing is, for me, I don't want to full fade too many of these guys because it doesn't look like we're going to have a slate where 4 or 5 different running backs produce value. I think you have to hit the right 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
BobbyWow, are you averse to zeroing out running back in the flex this week? Just straight up, just saying I'm not doing it?
I'm totally okay doing that this week. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have an issue with that.
That is not a standard BobbyWow opinion. So it tells me I'm on to something here. Because that's not standard. Normally, I don't like a lot of rules. I don't like a lot of rules. Rule breaker. So there we go. Any other running backs that we didn't talk about, guys, that you want to mention before we move on?
One other for me is got to pay attention to deeper tournaments is Zach Charbonnet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Does that require a injury to Kenny Walker to be relevant?
I don't know. I think whether Kenny Walker plays or not, I think Charbonnet is an option. Obviously, if Kenny Walker's ruled out, Charbonnet becomes a phenomenal play at 4,200.
He's lock button at that point. Yeah,
I think Washington has dumped their defensive line at this point. They're not a great defense against the run. And Zach Charbonnet, has been slowly increasing his snap counts. We haven't seen that translate in terms of rushing attempts, but I think there's a legitimate evening out here of snap counts that will translate into that at some point. Healthy, whether Walker's healthy or not, I think Charbonnet is the better pass catcher of the 2.
Yep.
And I think whatever injury that Kenneth Walker is dealing with, sounds like maybe a chest injury. That's clearly affecting him, and it's affecting the way that Pete Carroll's, deploying these guys in the backfield. So at 4,200, I'm more than okay taking some chances if you're running out 150 lineups with Zach Charbonnet, even if Walker plays.
I 100% agree with you, Bobby. Kev, you and I talked about it last night, actually, when we recorded the stream, and we prefaced it as if Walker's out, this presents such a great spot for Charbonnet. And I actually agree with Bobby that it may not even have to be where he's out. This just presents really good value. Charbonnet, to get there, yeah, he needs 16 points, but he's been doing really well out of the backfield for this team via targets as well as running the football, and he could overtake Walker potentially next year down the road a little bit if he continues to perform. So because of the injuries that Walker has sustained so much this year, years in the past as well. So
I'm just looking at their their metrics from last week, and 60% of the snap 50 effectively on the snap shares last week, even though Walker did continue to get the prime workload in terms of not just rushes but also targets in that game. So looks like Charbonnet 4% target share, nothing special, probably one target. Walker 8%, so he probably got 2 targets in that game, and then it was 50-50 on the snap count, which is interesting. So Charbonnet definitely in the game quite a bit more. I think that where I think this goes right is in a scenario where Washington is scoring. So you already really like BobbyWow, Howell, and it makes sense that you like Charbonnet here. I think Charbonnet is a wonderful potential bring back option. If Howell is elevating the scoring in this game and he's doing what he do, then Charbonnet being in the game in passing situations, especially if Seattle's catching up or something like that, there is a game flow where that really works out on both sides of that. I would almost want to mix that in with my Howell lineups rather than maybe as a standalone play if I was building that way. Bobby, I don't know what you were thinking, but I kind of really like that along with your take on Howell, because the bring back with Charbonnet really just, is it Charbonnet or Charbonnet?
Charbonnet flows better, so I'm going to stick with Charbonnet, but I have no idea.
I like changing it to the French when it's wrong. Like, I'd rather be saying Charbonnet when it's not Charbonnet. I don't know why I find that more fun to do. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's more permissible as well.
Yeah. Now I don't even remember if that's a made up thing. Like, it was just saying Charbonnet, but it's really Charbonnet. Now I forgot. I don't even know anymore. I was like, I'm lost in a web of lies at this point. I don't know what to do.
What is your guys' opinion on Tyler Algier this week in that 4K range? Because, he's been getting the run. It's just it's weird. I don't know.
Algier is just that guy. I don't want to get on board with Algier. I want to hate Algier for ruining Bijan. Like, this feels like if you don't beat him, join him kind of thing. But I don't want to join him. I just want to stop with Algier and all this madness and allow Bijan to be the wonderful fantasy producer that he should be.
Yeah, I love Bijan. Don't get me wrong. I was just trying to get your guys' opinion on Algier. That's all.
Here we go. Super chat. I was a little late, had to skip ahead. There was no mention of Saints Vikings, no interest in Dobbs, Hawkinson stacks. I could see this game being a sneaky shootout. I'm gonna say okay. Yeah,
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Dobbs is, you know who Dobbs is now? Dobbs is the sniper. He just shows up on a team and is good. They don't need training, doesn't need practice. He just knows what he's doing. He's been on enough teams that he knows the playbook already, just because, hey, I've been around. The thing I like about Dobbs is that he run. This is the same shit. Yes. You know how many times this season I recommended Dobbs and he failed? By the way, there was 4 weeks in a row where I'm going back to Dobbs, and with Arizona and he failed. But the reasoning was the same every time, which was the guy's running for 40, 50 yards a game. All he needs to do is put one in the end zone via the run. And you're already starting with 12 fantasy points. And now you only need to throw for 10 more fantasy points to have this great game. So I think Dobbs is somebody that should always be in your mix. I don't think he's going to have a great, but BobbyWow, in the Millie Maker mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love the rushing upside. And Hawkinson, Dobbs loved Hawkinson last week. So there's no reason to think that would change this week.
The targets were crazy. I think it was 16 targets or some insane amount of targets. I think that's just because he didn't know the plays. So it was Hawkinson's always 4 feet away, just standing there. And you're all right, there he is. And I think there was a little bit of that going on in that game, but I don't like the other side of it. I'm not interested in Derek Carr.
No. No.
How much money have we saved not playing Derek Carr over the last 3 years?
A lot.
It's just been money savings. It makes us money by not playing him. Burns is frozen over there. Hopefully
I don't know what's going on.
I hear you though.
Sucks.
It's like a picture, and it's fine. It works. I hear you.
Had a great look at that blue hat. That hat is woo. I love that.
That is a fire hat. I'm sporting Jets green, but keep in mind, guys, when you win a tournament and you're rocking the DFS Army avatar, that's the avatar, the helmets up. You let us know. You take down a 10K win. We're sending you swag. And a little inside info for you guys. Don't share this outside of this room right here, just the three of us. But I just ordered some DFS Army hoodies for the swag kits. Never had a hoodie before.
That's a big deal.
It's coming only for you. Got to be a 2-time winner to get the hoodie. You don't get it on the first swag. But now we have so many 2- and 3-time winners that I started feeling stupid sending the same stuff all the time. So we added elite level hoodies to the mix. So a little known secret, keep it within the three of us.
I love that.
We want everybody to know about it. All right, let's move on and let's talk wide receiver NFL. Wait a minute. I just realized that we're live. All right, now everybody knows. I literally just put in the order. I was just approving the artwork yesterday. There's a whole process here. I get samples to the house. I try them on for softness because in my mind, I'm going to be wearing that hoodie all the time. So I try it on. I wear it around for a day or two. I'm like, this one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's not thick enough. This feels scratchy on my skin. I don't like that.
I don't know, Kev. I think you might like this company that's Columbus based. It's called Homage. I think you might like them.
Making hoodies?
Yeah, hoodies. They do hoodies. They do T-shirts.
Wait, are they paying for a public sponsorship of this pod right now?
I was gonna say, this feels like an ad.
Can we not talk about that during the podcast? They could pay for that sponsorship. Burns, come on.
That's phenomenal.
Sorry.
Business.
Sorry.
Business. All right, hold up. Let's move on.
Like it. I just like their shirts. They're good.
That's all right. Tell me after. All right, let's move on and let's talk about wide receiver. And, I love talking wide receivers. I like the wide receiver group this week. Right at the top here, though, I definitely have some fades that I don't like and some spots I do. But as always, BobbyWow, I'm going to throw it to you first here, and we're going to talk through the stud position. Vashti, the cat, wants to get involved here, but she has strong opinions. They're usually not something I want to follow along with. So at the top zone here, Keenan Allen at the top, most expensive wide receiver on this slate. Of course, Jamar Chase with Burrow, that looks great. CeeDee Lamb in that crazy game. Give me a couple of who are you flag planting on as your pay up options at wide receiver, and are you focused more on paying up at wide receiver this week than you are at running back?
Yes, I think paying up a wide receiver in general. I don't think paying up a wide receiver because you fill 3 or 4 spots doesn't necessarily mean you're paying for the top 4 guys, right? It just means, maybe the average salary of those 3 or 4 is, $6,500 instead of $5,500. So I think the value at wide receiver, or I'm sorry, the production at wide receiver is worth paying up for this week. And so I don't like Keenan Allen very much outside of Herbert stacks. If you're playing Herbert, fine. He obviously makes sense. I would play those guys together, but I would only play those guys together. I wouldn't play them anywhere else. And so not a big fan of Keenan Allen. I think the 2 guys I'm with in this range, Amon-Ra is my number 1 in this top tier. And then I think Jamar Chase is, a very close second, if not, sharing that number 1 spot. So those are the 2 guys I'll be looking to at 6,700 and above.
I almost don't think there's anybody else to even look at. Burns, are you on board with this? I think it's Chase. I think it's Sun God. And then after that, I don't really like anything I'm seeing all the way down here to 6,500.
Yeah, I am right there with you guys.
Okay.
Amon-Ra 1, Jamar Chase, very close second. Keenan Allen potentially with Goff stacks as well as a bring back. But other than that, no, I don't have any interest in Keenan Allen this week.
Yeah, and I'll go through the rest of these names just like to go through them. But Mike Evans is always fine, but always quite a bit overpriced. He will pop once in a while. I think it's fine. It's a good matchup, but whatevs. Ayuk, you mentioned before, less good against the zone than maybe the other two pass catchers. I'm fine with that. I normally don't like to pay $7K for Ayuk when all are healthy for the 49ers, though I will have some exposure in my Purdy stacks, and I will have a lot of Purdy stacks this week. So I'll get some of that exclusively with Purdy. I think like some of these other guys are just exclusively game stacks type guys, like DK Metcalf. There's no way I'm playing him outside of a Geno Smith lineup. Godwin, no. Collins got the Q-Tag. Collins Q-Tag is really interesting because if he is out this week, that does elevate those other guys on Houston to, gonna get some extra targets this week, gonna load up on them status. So I definitely am going to be monitoring Nico Collins here.
Yeah, and he has not practiced at all. He didn't practice again today. I think Nico is going to be out. We'll see.
So let's assume he's out. Let's extrapolate because it's Friday, and if he hasn't practiced today, that's a really bad sign.
Yeah.
So assuming he's out, I mean that shoots Tank Dell and Noah Brown up to like elite and Dalton
Schultz.
Yeah, to elite play status. No,
absolutely.
All three of those guys are gonna be heavy owned. So that's gonna be really exciting. The other guy who's out is T. Higgins. And so I wanted to, with him being out, Boyd and now Trenton Irwin. Irwin's going to be very popular. I like Irwin. The last time Higgins was out, Irwin got 10 targets. Now, I'm not counting. I don't need 10 targets from a 3K Stoneman salary wide receiver. I'll take it. But, I mean, you give me 5 targets, I am ecstatic on a 3K player. Those two guys, super popular. You guys on board?
With Higgins out, yeah, I mean, those are good spots, right?
I mean, we're going to be loading up on
Irwin.
Burrow anyway, so you have to play him with some of his guys.
But don't forget Irv Smith, 2.7K this week. He opens up a lot at the tight end position when you just roster him in there. So he could get some run with Higgins out this week as well.
I'll say this too. Don't feel like you need to force those guys. Like, keep it simple. It's Burrow and Chase. Burrow and Chase are the two guys. If you want another piece on top of that with Burrow, totally fine with Irwin or Boyd. I think Boyd's a great play. I just wouldn't go crazy there.
I feel I need 2 with Burrow.
Yes.
I do feel like I need a second guy. So I don't care which is the second guy, but I do feel like I need a second guy other than Chase.
Agreed. Just make sure Chase is.
Oh yeah,
Chase
yeah, for sure.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, all day. It's just, I do feel I need the second guy with Burrow. He's the type of quarterback that you want to double stack. All right, let's scroll down a little bit here. It's interesting because we left a lot of ownership on the table. Leaving off kind of CD. That's 15%. That's the VIG if it doesn't work for CD Lamb. Some of these other guys like Metcalf at 8-9%. We're leaving some ownership on the table. I think that's a good thing. All right. So scrolling down here, next level of wide receiver. Let's call it kind of 6,500 down to that 5K range. So we got a nice group here. A lot of reasonable names. A lot of names that I think we'll have a lot of interest in. BobbyWow, do you have some? Give me some of your favorites here. Are you annoyed that I keep going to you first? Should I go to Burns so I don't give you the time to think?
Let's go to Burnsy first though. Let's switch it up.
Okay. I
love it though. I'm flattered.
All right. I just go in an order that as long as I repeat it, I remember. And if I stop and I start switching it around, I forget who the hell I even spoke about it. And then it starts to get chaos. Cats and dogs living together. It's complete anarchy. I can't have anarchy here.
It's all good. We can always help you out through it.
All right. Talk to me while
6,500 and below.
She wants to say hi to
obviously, with having there you go. Obviously, having Purdy as a quarterback this week, I'm going right to Debo. I already talked about the reasonings why I like Debo. Below Debo, I'm gonna go right back to DeAndre Hopkins this week. I just like the matchup. I think he has a really good matchup. Another guy this week at that 6K range is also Christian Kirk. he presents a very good. He's got a good matchup there. Let's go. We're going down to 5K, so let me see here.
Is it crazy? I like everybody in this zone.
I know it's a really tough zone just to pull out just a couple, but a couple more. I don't want to pull from what Bobby's going to say, so I'll leave it at that for those guys.
I like it.
Yeah, I think, fully in agreement on Debo with Purdy stacks. I really like Tyler Lockett. I think DK Metcalf is going to be limited. I think he's actually going to be out. We'll see what happens.
Really?
But I don't think Metcalf's practicing, or at least I don't think he has to this point.
Chat, get us an update on Metcalf. Has he practiced today? What's the story with Metcalf? To the chat.
But yeah. I like Lockett either way. DeAndre Hopkins is going back up in price a little bit. I'm a little bit concerned, but his ceiling at 6K is still juicy. I like Kirk. Calvin Ridley's popping a little more to me this week. He had a 35% target share last week.
The Riddler.
I think, you could get a nice little discount on him, a couple $100. I like taking some shots on Ridley as well, but both those guys in play. And then Drake London. I think this could be a Drake London week. You got Taylor Heineke slinging the football. Drake London's the perfect type of wide receiver for Heineke's game. I think it's sneaky high scoring. I mentioned Heineke as a potential quarterback play. So the Heineke London stacks are really intriguing to me. I like London this week.
Better like London if you like Heineke. London is like the Terry McLaurin of the Falcons here. And when Heineke was the quarterback for the Commanders, it was just McLaurin. So yeah, I like that spot as well.
Of course, T-Mac's, a phenomenal play with Howell. He's probably my favorite play in this zone in terms of ceiling upside. And then, Tank Dell, we already talked about. Tank Dell is going to be 1,000% owned this week, but he's a phenomenal play.
Yeah, I again assuming or Collins is out, or assuming he's going to be out. Yeah, Tank Dell.
Assuming he'll be out.
Yeah, he's going to explode this week. You guys covered a lot of it here. I'm on board with all of it. I love the Lockett play. If Metcalf is out, give me that. I want that happiness in my life that I can feel confident in Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's going to be so high in my ownership this week if that happens. I love it. So listen, chat going to let us know, but right now I would love that. The name that you didn't really mention here, but a couple names, I like them all. But Marquise Brown as well, you got to put him in that mix. The assumption being that Kyler Murray is back to his self.
Oh, we're scrolling down. We gotta get scrolling then.
Yeah, well, it's right to the 5K range. I'm allowing it all the way down to 5K.
Okay.
And so this dude was money with Kyler Murray, 10 targets a game. Just a scoring machine, and he wasn't bad with whoever the hell else was there. So I think Marquise Brown is actually good. If you start to look at his career, you're like, wait, he was pretty good with the Ravens too. Like, this guy's been good for his whole career, so I'll take that. As far as going back to Deontay this week, he definitely was peppered with targets last week. So
chalky, my gosh,
is he?
That?
Oh my gosh, 19%. That is very high owned. What is with people loving this game? And Pickens, 10%? Wow. Surprising. Meanwhile, BobbyWow spitting 3.7% owned Drake London, who's probably a better play. Let me just look through this whole. I didn't actually look at the ownerships. So, yeah, you can get a discount on Christian Kirk here at 6%.
What's the love on Deontay Johnson? I just don't understand it.
Target share.
I think he just got a lot of targets the last 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And you like guys who get a lot of targets. It's going to, you know what the big thing is, Burns? Understand a lot of people are using optimizers, different projection systems.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are using optimizers. And the way that these ownerships are generated is effectively just running the optimizer and kind of seeing who pops in. And a mean projection for a player that's getting as many targets as Deontay Johnson is just going to be higher than the mean projection for somebody who's getting fewer. It doesn't mean he has the same ceiling as those other guys, but the floor is probably higher if he's going to be a 30% guy. If he's getting 30% of those targets, he's going to have a higher floor. To your point, though, Drake London's a 30% target share guy, too. They just don't throw it as often.
Yeah.
So he could really do it
now.
What's that?
I said, or do they now? They got Taylor Heineke, baby.
Well,
the gunslinger.
now they might. I hope so, but it's still Arthur Smith. So no.
True, very true.
No, they will still be terrible. I got to call my boy Arthur Blank. I don't know if you know this, but Arthur Blank, we're on the same wavelength, me and him. I'm going to tweet him, a little DM tweet him, like, bro, this Arthur Smith situation, not good. We'll switch it up next year. Got to get in touch with Arthur Blank. Get that switched up. Sick of this shit. All right. Bobby Wow, I assume you like Jahan Dotson as well. I know he fell in the 5K category, but if you like Heineke, you like McLaurin, you should like Dotson as well.
Yep.
But let's talk through the salary saving group, and I'll start it off this time.
There we go.
You guys take all the good players and leave me with the scraps, and I'm sick of it. So I'm going to start this off a little bit, and I'm going to just give you 3 or 4 of my favorites here under 5K that I think are going to really pop. A lot of these are going to be super obvious, but I'm not even going to mention Tyler Boyd because we've mentioned his name before. But Quentin Johnston now, coming off of what wasn't the best week against the Jets because he was up against Sauce Gardner and all the suckers played him in the showdown. We told you don't play Quentin Johnston in that matchup, and that worked out really nicely. I wish I would have told everybody play Chargers defense as your captain. Didn't get that far. But certainly we got off of Quentin Johnston. I think we can go back to Quentin Johnston this week as the WR2 for the Chargers in an up-tempo matchup. They're going to be throwing. Detroit good against the run. So a lot of reason to like Quentin Johnston here. Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Metcalf is out, Jackson Smith and Jigba might be my favorite play under 5K and maybe on the whole damn slate on a points per dollar basis. He might be my favorite guy. Love Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yep. If Metcalf is out, I liked Jackson Smith and Jigba when I thought Metcalf was in. The guy got 6 targets last week. He has been getting targets for the price. I love it. I think another obvious one is going to be Noah Brown, of course. If Collins is out, I mean, Noah Brown's ownership is going to spike from 2.5 to like 25%. He'll be one of the higher owned guys, just across the whole slate. And then 3K, Tyler Ervin is my last guy that I'm excited for. T. Higgins out, 10 targets the last time that happened for. Did I say his name right? Trenton Irwin. Trenton. What did I say? Trenton Irwin. He's still not projecting because our projection model has not updated for Higgins being out. But when it does, you're going to see, I think, Trenton Irwin. Anytime you have a 3K guy who's in line for 5+ targets, you do it. And yes, I'm eating that chalk. Dude, I'm eating the chalk on Brown. I don't care. He's going to be high owned. 3,700. That's where you want to eat the chalk. You know where you don't want to eat the chalk? When the guy is 8K and in a bad spot. I don't want to eat that chalk. I want to eat the chalk of the 3K guy who's like in an excellent spot. So that's what I would do. So I'll push it over to you, Bobby Wow. Under 5K, salary savers. I know I sucked up all the good ones. So don't feel like you have to force anything, but give me 1 or 2 others that I didn't mention.
I'm gonna give you 3 punts here because I think we covered just about everyone else. You covered everyone that I like. 3 punts from me. 1, Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is intriguing this week. We're going to be having a lot of Goff. One way to get a little different in those Goff stacks, you're going to want a ton of Laporta and Amon-Ra, but I think you could rotate Jameson in there a little bit. He's a big play guy, doesn't need that many catches to potentially show up in the optimal. So Jameson's one of my punt potential guys. Another one we mentioned him briefly earlier, Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore is min price, and he had several double-digit target games right before Kyler Murray got hurt. He's a good player. He's explosive.
I need my pen and paper out because these are gold.
Rondale to me is the most likely of these punts to put up a decent score. he looked good with Kyler. Kyler utilized him well. I think he's in a really interesting spot. So Rondale Moore is my favorite absolute floor min price play. And then the one other guy, and this is really, really, really sketchy. This is the silliest for the milliest for me. Kadarrell Hodge for the Falcons. Mac Hollins has been ruled out. And Kadarrell Hodge was someone that Heineke looked to early and often last week in place. When Hollins went out, Kadarrell got some targets. I think he ended up with like 6 or 7 targets. And so again, another guy down in that price range could potentially find himself in the end zone. If London were to get re-injured, or even if not, he's going to be on the field. So Kadarrell Hodge is like the silly for the millie dart for me.
I mean, you're spitting names that are like 0.03% owned. These are spectacular. If any of those hit, it's going to be you and you alone, or you and a few people who watch this breakdown that are going to be the only people that have those guys, especially Kadarrell Hodge. Love the Rondale Moore thing. Rondale Moore's ownership is not going to spike from where it's showing right now. It's just what it's going to be. So that's pretty good. I love it. Great stuff, Bobby. Wow. How about you, Burns?
I mean, I'll just give you one that you guys really didn't touch on, but everyone else is pretty much where I was going to go. And that is probably going to be Josh Reynolds as well in that Detroit game, just to give you more like options. That's all. He's just another option in a really good game that could actually produce in this game as well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that game, I mean, him and Jameson Williams, more so Jameson, I would say, but like, if they just decide to throw to Jameson a little bit more than 2 or 3 times, especially with the deep ball prowess that he has in that role, I mean, it could be a spectacular smash at 0.027% ownership on a quarterback that's heavily owned, but no one has his WR, whatever it is. What, 2, 3? I don't know what Jameson Williams is. Is he the WR2?
3, probably.
He's the 3? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So I really like it. Great stuff. Any last thoughts on the wide receiver position, or shall we move on to the tight end spot?
I'm going to move on.
Sounds like we move on. We covered everything. So I have to add some names to my sheet after this one. Had to write that down. Really great stuff. All right, let's talk tight ends. And I'm going to do the old sort by projected ownership again, just to see who's cracking, who's popping, and who looks good and whatnot. So once again, as I hit that button, I'm surprised by what I'm seeing, which is good for us. I don't believe this can hold, but I mean, my goodness, there are definitely things going on here that I think we can leverage to our advantage. Number one being Sam Laporta, only 7.6% owned in that matchup. Really?
Yeah, love that matchup for him.
With the vaunted 100 rating?
I absolutely love this matchup for Laporta. It is pristine matchup for him in this offense. Oh, geez. This is going to be great.
I love it, right? And then B. Dalton, but you can call me Schultz.
Yeah.
In the do you guys know what that's from, by the way?
No.
B. Dalton, the book, the book. They used to compete with the other big store that sells books. What's the other one? What's the big superstore that you go into that still sells books? There's only one left. Barnes and Noble, and B. Dalton was their competitor, and their theme was B. Dalton, but you can call me Books, like as if I can't believe you don't know that. You guys are so young.
Dalton.
B. Dalton.
I just remember a bookstore called Walden Books. That's about it.
Maybe it's a New York store. Maybe it was like a metro area place. Maybe it wasn't there. So, all right, I'm not going to hold it against you. Anyway, B. Dalton, but you can call me Schultz. I don't know. I thought that was witty. Dalton Schultz, though, at 4% owned, that's going to spike. He'll be much higher owned. But it is a lot of these 5K guys. I don't really, I don't think this is, like I said, Jake Ferguson. I'm not. No. Take me through this, though. Right up at the top, Trey McBride. Hawkinson got all those targets last week. I get why those two are chalky, but Burns, you're really good with the tight end position and the math of the tight end position. What is the Shark Lab pointing to this week?
Is definitely not Trey McBride.
No, it's not easy.
That's way too much ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many potentialities for him to fail with 21%, 22% ownership. I get the reasoning why he's that high. I mean, he's $3,500. But Laporta's the number one guy. I mean, he is the number one tight end on the entire slate for me. So everything else beyond him that I'm going to mention is just like, okay, it's just an okay guy. You know what I mean? But definitely Laporta number one. From him, I'm going to go probably and stay in that Washington-Seattle game, and I'm going right to Logan Thomas in this one. He's got potential to have a really good game in this one. So he's in my mix. Another guy we talked about, Dalton Schultz. He is another guy. But in that Cincinnati game, it's Irv Smith. I mean, he's $2,700. It is such a cheap price point for this guy. But he's not the type of guy that's going to get you a significant amount of volume in this game. But in and around the goal line, they could go to him for a touchdown, and he may get like 3 receptions for in and around 30 or under yards. So he's going to make tournament value that way. So he's a guy that's going to be in my mix this week as well.
Love it. I love the tight end position this week. I think you could play 2 tight ends. Like, I think there are value tight ends galore. I think this is where you're finding a lot of value. Again, it's reinforcing my firm belief that only 2 running backs are going to be necessary on DraftKings. By the way, that never is the case on FanDuel. You always need 3 running backs on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, only 2 are necessary. BobbyWow, take me through your sort of thoughts for the tight end position. Who are you on? Obviously, we all like, we all like Laporta, but who are you kind of into this week?
Yeah, I think Burns nailed it. I mean, Laporta for me is the top dog, and it's not particularly close. I really like Schultz and Hawkinson as well. So, Geek, your double tight end idea is, I like it. That's probably where I'll be sitting with most of my lineups is double tight end.
Really?
Again, starting with Laporta. Really, really like Hawkinson. He's got that Q tag. I know he's getting chalky, but
he was wincing in pain after every hit, but then he just comes back in the game.
He's the perennial wincer. I feel like he does that every week too. So yeah, certainly could flop. I just think, his upside at 5K might be as good as anybody's. So Laporta, Hawkinson, Schultz. I got a little interest in Pitts again with Heineke at the helm, 4,100. I'm willing to get burned by Pitts again at that price, given his potential upside. And then one guy that's seems to be showing up a little bit more for me as far as paydowns go is Juwan Johnson. He got more into the mix last week. He ended up catching a touchdown. He actually was on the field for more than any other Saints offensive player outside of the quarterback, I think. So Juwan Johnson, if you're looking to get cheap with somebody, he's somewhere that I'm looking to as a silly for the milli option. But I think it's those 3 guys, Laporta, Hawkinson, and Schultz.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I would throw a couple of other names in there, and I know you'll like these names too, BobbyWow. So, Logan Thomas with your Sam Howell lineups, and also just as a standalone play. Logan Thomas just pops off like every other game. There's a cadence to his good and bad. It's like every other game, and this seems like that other game. So I'd have him in my mix. There's so many of these that are decent spots. Pitts, sure, why not? Same deal. But that time with the Tyler Heineke lineups, and Burns, you mentioned, George Kittle as a potential play. Only in my Purdy lineups. I don't like the price point here generally, but in my Purdy lineups, I'll get a little Kittle going as well. Kate Otten had the big week last week. I guess I'll mention it. Cade Otton was the man last week, but it's funny. No one's chasing that. Like, it's not like ownership spiked at all for Cade Otton. He's exactly where he was. And I think that's probably the correct move, but any interest there in Cade Otton just like repeating what he did last week randomly?
No.
None?
Not really for me.
Because he only did it once ever. So there you go. And of course, there's Irv Smith Jr. hanging out at almost no ownership down here. And he's a very comfortable second piece to go along with your Burrow lineup. I don't know if I'm going to play Irv Smith like as a standalone. I like these other tight ends a lot better. I like the upside of like the little Porters and the Hawkinsons of the world. I'm not also getting the sense that we're going to need like a $2,700 guy this week. Actually, there is one way that we might need it, and that depends on our defense selection. So let's shift gears here and talk about defenses. I don't want to spend a lot of time on defense, but I do like to talk about it and get a sense of where to go this week. By the way, if you guys are with us this far, all I can ask is hit the like button or share it with a friend. Go on social media. Has anybody ever shared one of our videos? Like you say, like, subscribe, share. I don't know that anybody's ever shared a video. Show me that it's possible. Go out there, like on your social media, and share the video. I just want to see. No one ever shares our stuff. I never shared a video either, though, in fairness, so I don't blame you for not doing it. But give us a share. All right. So let's talk defense. And Burns right here, you see the highest owned and the second highest owned. And the highest is Cardinals, which are the pay down option of the week at 2,500. Taking on a Falcons team that has no business really being favored in any game. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Cowboys against Tommy DeVito, who was last seen beating up a gangster in the back of a Cadillac somewhere on the outskirts of Las Vegas, in the sand dunes of Las Vegas.
Sure, he wasn't getting beat up.
No, he's Tommy DeVito. Tommy?
Yeah.
Eventually, he's a little too crazy. Jimmy had to get him taken care of. A little Goodfellas action. Yeah, I mean, like in order to roster the Cowboys at 4,400, which is as expensive as it gets for a defense on DraftKings, that's when you kind of need to pay down that. That's when you need to find that Irv Smith Jr. play to make it work. So with that being said, those two guys, Burns, take me through who the Shark, because the Shark Lab is elite in picking defenses and always ones that I was like, really, them? And then they go nuts.
Yeah.
So take me through it.
I won't touch on Dallas. I think everyone knows what Dallas can do. I mean, they put up 40 points in this matchup in week one. I mean, it was ridiculously incredible the way that defense just dismantled Danny Dimes and the New York Giants in week one. I don't know. I don't think they're going to get to that point again this week. I think this game, I think if they get to 20, that's significant for players, for DFS Army members. Just think about it. They're 4.4K. They really do need to get to 20 to 22 to make to put you in the money here. But other defenses in and around them that I am really gravitating towards. I think it's really going to be a pay up week for your defense this week. It's just the models projecting they're pinpointing more of higher dollar defenses, and the one defense that I'm really starting to like gravitate more towards than Dallas is Seattle this week. Seattle is coming in under 5% owned. Don't get me wrong, Cowboys are in an amazing spot. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to say if you have a Millie Maker lineup and Seattle is in it and they produce 20 points and Dallas produces 15 at 5% ownership versus 20% ownership, you're going to overtake them. And so that's just how that works. Other defenses on the slate that we're looking at, Pittsburgh with Green Bay coming into town. San Francisco going across pretty much the entire country to Jacksonville this week. But the Millie Maker special defense this week is the Titans. The Titans going down into Tampa Bay. It is popping so heavily on the model right now that the way the model works is, it takes into consideration the type of defensive fronts, the type of offensive fronts. So where they're ranking in the respective categories for your defensive and offense fronts, how many turnovers have occurred, how those turnovers have occurred, the type of pressures that are being put on by a defense, how the offensive line is reacting to pressures on the defense up front. So, these are all types of things that are consideration of the model. In addition to that is Vegas betting lines. They have an actual they predict defenses very accurately. So this is the reason why the Titans are popping, is that in past Millie Maker winning lineups, in the top 20 Millie Maker lineups that we're researching this year, is any defense that is an away underdog, you really want to target a defense that has an implied team total of 18 and greater. They are specifically being targeted by winning lineups, and this is a type of defense that is pinpoint right there. They're at 18 points plus. And Tampa Bay offense is not a great, they have their problems. So this is kind of where we're looking at it. And then if I had to pay down, I'm really torn between Cincinnati Bengals and Houston. Same methodology with Houston that I just shared with Tennessee, is that, they're coming into Cincinnati and they got an implied team total over 18, and they're an away underdog. And they could get there too this week.
All of those are shocking calls. Like, couldn't be further off the radar. Titans on the road.
I think they're at 2.5% ownership.
Yeah, super low owned. The Bengals, the game of the week, we're taking defenses. I think it's pretty wild. I think Bengals defense is fascinating because literally no one will play them. What is the price point on them?
2.8.
2,800. Okay.
Third highest projected ownership right now. Third highest
Bengals?
projected. Yeah. People aren't sold on CJ yet.
This is unbelievable. Cardinals are and the Cowboys are only going to be 8%. I don't know if I buy. I feel like these numbers are going to change, but man, that's surprising. That's surprising for me. BobbyWow, you have any defenses that you're kind of focusing in on this week outside of the big two?
Yeah, I never pay up. I'm paying up for the Cowboys this week. Tommy DeVito's really, really not a good quarterback. I don't mind the Browns against the Ravens. I think they're intriguing at 3K. They're a really good defense. I am not interested in eating the Cardinals defense chalk. I think that Falcons team has more firepower than people give them credit for, even though they haven't showed it yet. And the Cardinals just aren't that exciting on defense. So my pivot off the Cardinals in terms of pay down, it's Jacksonville Jaguars. I like looking at teams that can generate turnovers. The Jaguars generate turnovers as good as anyone in the league. I think they might actually lead the league in turnovers right now. So Brock Purdy has not looked like himself. I think he's turned the ball over 5 times in the last 3 games. I'm willing to take some chances on the Jags if you want to punt. And then one other mention is the Bucs. I think the Buccaneers middling option, 3,500. Will Levis, don't forget this is his 3rd NFL game this week. So rookie quarterback. Buccaneers have also been good at generating takeaways. They can put pressure on Levis. I've got some interest there too.
I love it. I think you guys literally nailed the defense position. There's only one that you guys didn't mention that I'm going to give a little mention to, which is the Browns. They are a good team on defense. They are an actual good defensive team. Yes, they're on the road. Yes, it's not the best matchup in the world, but I don't care. Anytime you have the Browns, so the 2 criteria I use for defense, one is, rookie quarterback. That's why I love the Bucs call. Young quarterback, not a lot of people playing them. Any situation where you're up against a neophyte quarterback, the Saints. I'm surprised I didn't hear the word. Not that Dobbs is new, but he's kind of new to that team. And he's had very bad games at quarterback. Let's let the recency bias fade for a second. And remember, Dobbs wasn't that good with the Cardinals for most of the season. So, Saints a little bit. But the second criteria I have is just like them being a good defense. And that's what the Browns are. They're just a good defensive team. They're probably the best defensive team in the league as of right now. So, yeah, at unowned. Actually, they are owned. So it's not that sneaky. It looks like they are owned, and maybe it's not that great of a play, but or it's not that sneaky of a play, but I thought it was sneaky because it didn't occur to me until just now. But there we go. I would say the Browns there are an interesting one. I want to address Nayland here. So what we do as far as lineups creation is every Saturday we have the Players Club VIP podcast for DFS Army subscribers, and we do our final takes on the slate. We go through the whole thing. Then we put it all together, building different lineups around different stacks. We go through a bunch of different options for how to build each lineup. So we'll talk about how to build some Burrow stacks, different approaches for it. That is the Players Club. That comes up every Saturday at 1. We drink Blue Moons.
It's a good time.
Lineups together. If you're a DFS Army subscriber, make sure that you are around for that. A lot of people don't realize when it is, or because we're only giving that link out in our Discord. So that's not something that's going to be here on the public YouTube channel. That is for subscribers. We got to keep a little something for the subscribership. So that's what we do for the subscribers. And of course, on Saturday nights, we do a Domination Station Optimizer live stream setup for the Sunday main slate. So kind of help part of what we do at DFS Army is teach how to use these tools. It's a really, really important part of what we do. That's why a lot of our subscribers are able to win. That's why when you kind of see us posting big wins from subscribers, it looks a little different than the other DFS sites out there, which really you're only seeing like the host of the show and or their hired professionals that kind of show their big wins and they tell you we win a lot. But what we try to do is have our subscribers win. And so part of that is teaching how to use the tools. And that's what we do on Saturday nights for NFL with the live stream Domination Station Optimizer build, only for the people who like to mass multi-enter. We have our group that loves to handcraft lineups. We have our mass multi-entry crews. We got it all. Everybody's there, along with BobbyWow and Burns and DFS Up North and Josiah, Madness and Mutt and Uppers and the whole crew that break down the NFL games for us on a week-to-week basis. So we're all in there talking back and forth, strategizing together as well. So it is where average Joes go to compete on a level playing field with DFS Pro. So we hope you join us in DFS Army as a subscriber. Get signed up now. It's a great time to go full VIP because, of course, we have our props game, the Proptimizer. We're about to launch Sleeper on the Proptimizer tool, which is going to be awesome as well. So adding more things to that. And just a nonstop NBA and NFL and MMA sort of bonanza happening right now in the DFS space. So, of course, you want to be a part of all that. Get signed up at DFS Army. Hit that like button for this video. I want to thank Burns and BobbyWow for being here for another Tournament Tactics. Of course, we will see everybody back here, same time, same channel next week. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you next time.